You think your brisket's badass? It's got nothing on this holiday ham. Let's bake it. Bay leaf, brown sugar, so pretty. What's up? This is Traeger Kitchen and I'm Nicole Daly, culinary producer at Traeger Grills, and today we have a really cool recipe for you. It is a bit of a project, it's a bit of a time commitment, but if you're in for a challenge and a project, it's really fun. We're gonna make an Easter ham. So most of the time when you buy a ham at the store, it's already brined. Sometimes they're already smoked and you're really just finishing it on the grill, sometimes glazing it, bringing it back up. We're gonna do this one from start to finish. So from a raw, unbrined ham all the way through to the end. So to start that out, we gotta make our brine. I'm gonna use this big old bucket. And I've got a bit of hot water in here. It's about 2 quarts. That'll all depend on how many hams you're doing. I would assume most people would never do more than 1. I did, but I'm not most people. We're gonna do a good bit of kosher salt, brown sugar, and you can find all of these amounts, the specifics, anything that you have a question about in the recipe, and that's in the description below. We'll also link to it so you can find that there. Black peppercorn, bay leaf, and the last thing we're gonna add to this is prog powder number 1. We are gonna do about a teaspoon per 5 pounds. This is about a 15-pound ham, so we've got 3 teaspoons in here. And then we're just gonna give it a whisk. You can do this on the stovetop too. Just bring it up to a simmer until all the sugars and salts are dissolved. I like to do a little shortcut just with some hot water. Our total brine is gonna be about 1 gallon. I split it in half and do half of that in hot, half of that in cold, so I don't have to wait for it to cool down. We are pretty dissolved, so we're gonna add our last bit of water in ice water. And we're gonna let that just hang tight for a minute while we talk about our ham. So this ham is, like I said, a 15-pound ham. You can order these from your butcher. What you want is a whole ham, whole fresh ham, and it has what's called the H-bone cut off. So there's another bone that sticks out right here that kind of makes this a much larger piece. Typically with a holiday ham, that H-bone is cut off, so it'll stand like this, and it makes for a really nice presentation for a holiday ham. So this is just gonna go straight in our bucket. And you wanna make sure it's completely submerged. So if you need to, you can throw some plates, something heavy down on top of it. If it's just barely covered, you can top it off with a little bit of extra water. It's not gonna hurt your ratios. If you're going crazy with it, it will, but if you're just adding a touch to top it off, it won't hurt anything. So we are gonna do that as well. Perfect. From here, we're gonna transfer this to the fridge. Now this is the bulk of the project. This is gonna brine for about 8 days. So you wanna go in every once in a while, give it a stir, flip it around, make sure that those edges that might be touching the bucket or whatever you're brining in, get rotated, and so every piece gets exposed to that brine. So you're gonna go in, rotate it once a day, every day for 8 days. I'm gonna transfer this over now, and I've got one that I've been brining. We'll bring it back and we'll show you the next step. All right, so fast forward 8 days. We've got one here that's already brined. It's not gonna look too much different. There's a little bit of difference in color. But from here, I would just pull off any of these large pieces of the brine, so the peppercorn or the bay leaf. And then we're just gonna give this a little pat. We are gonna go back to the fridge with this. I told you this was a project. So day 9, we're gonna put this back in the fridge, let it dry overnight. If you can, let it dry 2 or 3 days. It's not gonna hurt it. What's important about this step is you're doing 2 different things. So you're letting something called a pellicle form. It's this like tacky film on the outside of the piece of meat that will help smoke adhere. The other thing that you're doing is this has been sitting in a salt solution for over a week now, and you want to give it some time to level out. So during that time, it'll kind of expel any excess brine that it has, and it makes it so that you don't end up with a super salty product. But if you give it that time in the fridge to level out, I promise it's going to be great. So we're going to throw this to the fridge, and lucky for you, I have another one, so we'll be right back. All right, so day 8 or 9 or 10, 11, however many days you had to let this dry in the fridge. Next step, you can feel it's like tacky, that pellicle's developed. What we're gonna do is, this is for Easter. It's a holiday ham, right? We want a nice presentation, so we're gonna stand this guy up. And our next step, I'm just picking off little black peppercorns that are still on here. But our next step is to get this on the grill. So we're gonna season it, but before we do that, this is an optional step if you want to. You certainly don't have to. I think it's very classic of a holiday ham. We're gonna score it. So you can do this, you can skip it. It's really just aesthetic more than anything. But we're just gonna do like a crosshatch pattern all the way across this side of the ham. So this is where the bulk of your meat is. This back side has a bone that runs pretty close to the edge of this. So I usually don't worry about scoring that part, because what we're gonna wanna look at when we're at the table is this. So we'll start on this side. And we're really just going like inch by inch. And I'm gonna do it in sections. Last section over here. What this does is, again, I think it's mostly aesthetic. If you've got a big fat cap on the front of yours, you can see this one is kind of spotty. The scoring will help that fat render out. It'll kind of like jumpstart that process once you get it on the grill. But other than that, scoring is really just it's for looks. Okay. Next up, we are going to drizzle this with a little bit of olive oil. And I don't want you guys to yell at me. I'm gonna wipe this bottle down when I'm done with it, I promise. You can yell at me if you want, but I probably won't listen. Give that a rub. We're gonna use the Traeger Perfect Pork. So this is a rub that's a little bit on the sweeter side, but because we've brined this in that super salty mixture, you don't need a super salt forward rub for this. And I also really like the color that this gives your ham. So we're gonna get all the way around. Nice heavy coat. This is a big piece of meat, and again, this isn't super salty, so don't be shy. I'm gonna do this backside. All right, we are just about there. Now the last thing that we're gonna do before we get this on the grill is a meter. This is really gonna help predict how long this is gonna take. It's gonna do a lot of the work for you. Each piece of meat, whether it's a ham, a brisket, a steak, whatever, the bigger the piece, the wider range you might have depending on that piece of meat. So not every brisket is the same, not every ham is the same. You wanna go by internal temperature more than any given recipe time. That serves as a guide, but this is really what you should be following. So we're gonna stick that into the thickest part of the ham. I think our meatiest section is probably over here. You wanna avoid the bone, but you want the tip of that meter to end up dead center as much as you can. So we are going to cook this on our Woodridge. This is the Woodridge Elite. It has a side burner because we are gonna make an awesome glaze to go with this ham. We're gonna throw that on at 225. I warned you at the beginning, this is a process. It's a long cook time. We are gonna go 8 to 10 hours with this ham. We want it to come up to 165. So again, follow that meter, lean into that temp more than the time. So let's get this on. Gotta make sure she's not gonna fall over. I think we're good. All right, I'm gonna get cleaned up. I'm gonna get rid of all of our raw ham. I'm gonna clean these off. We're gonna come back and we're gonna build that glaze. All right, so when we tested this recipe, I was originally gonna make a Dijon brown sugar glaze. We tested it a couple times and it just didn't ever come out how I wanted to. And then sort of by accident, someone that works in our kitchen, his name is Spicy, he's freaking incredible. He was testing a recipe for these, well, I'm not gonna tell you. You'll see it later. He was testing a recipe and he made a glaze slash jam that's like pineapple-chipotle, and it was so freaking good. I changed this recipe to include that jam on this ham. See what I did there? So we're gonna throw together that glaze. It's just a couple ingredients, but I promise you it's worth it, and you have never had a ham that tastes like this. So we're gonna head to the side burner and throw that together. We're just gonna start out, I've got this on like medium-high heat. Just a little bit of olive oil. Some small diced onion. And salt and pepper. We're gonna give this a stir and just let these saute for a little bit. What you want is just to see that onion soften a hair, then we'll move on to the next step. So our onions have softened a hair. We're gonna add some pineapple. We used fresh, you can use canned if you want. So we're gonna let that cook down 3 or 4 minutes more. Really what you're looking for is all those juices from the pineapple to reduce just a hair, and you want the pineapple just as soft as the onions. All right, next couple things we're gonna add are 2 different types of sugar. We're gonna add some granulated and some brown sugar. Just give that a stir. We're gonna let that come up to a simmer and cook it down until it's nice and syrupy. There's 2 more things we're gonna add, but we won't add them until the very, very end. All right, last things we're gonna add here are apple cider vinegar and chipotle. So it's chipotle and adobo. I didn't like chop these up or anything and just leave them whole, and you can just break them up with your spoon or whatever directly in the pot. and then apple cider vinegar. Like I said, just break those up a little bit. They'll break down a little bit more as they cook. But what we're gonna do from here is we're just gonna bring it to a simmer, and you wanna let this cook down maybe by a quarter or a half. The next step we're gonna do is I have a ham on the grill that's already been cooking for about 10 hours, and it's ready to glaze. So we're gonna head over there, give her a glaze. At that point, we're gonna close the lid and let it set for 15, 20 minutes or so, just to allow that glaze to kind of set up a little bit, and then we'll glaze it again when we're done. That is the sexiest Easter ham I have ever seen, and it smells so good. We're gonna give that just a few minutes to set up, and then we're gonna come back, take it off, and dig in. All right, it's been a huge project. We're 10, 11, 12 days in, but the time has finally come. We're gonna take our ham off the grill and give it a bite. It's so pretty. Let's take that meter out. Now, I don't have anything against honey baked ham, but this looks freaking incredible. Again, it's a project. It's something to challenge yourself with. Next time you've got some time to kill, like 2 weeks, you can give it a try. But you can see the pink color in there. It's so pretty and it smells so good. Dang, love that. All right, I'm gonna take a bite. A little dip. You could do a little drizzle at the table. That was probably the best ham I have ever tried in my life, and I'm not lying. The chipotle in that jam is like just barely there in the background. It's not super spicy. The sweetness and the acidity from that jam really complements what's going on in here. This is an awesome ham. I promise you want to give it a try. Find 2 weeks. I promise you're going to enjoy it. If you want this recipe, you can find it in the description below. Make sure you like and subscribe and visit Traeger.com for many more, and we'll see you next week.